Hello guys, welcome to the second episode in a series where we're using facts and figures to show that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not the man for the job. First we looked at the Cardiff versus Manchester United match. Now we're looking at the Huddersfield versus Manchester United match. Yes, the scoreline looked rosy at 3-1, but there's some ugly figures underneath. You might be wondering why Manchester United is suffering right now. I'm going to take you back in time to show you that these problems started a long time ago and Manchester United has been papering over the cracks. So if you don't mind a few shocks here and there, stay tuned because it's the critique and I'm about to get down to business. Okay, I'll start off the episode by analyzing the most important aspects of a football match, which are the goals. I stressed in the previous episode that I want to determine whether or not Manchester United is getting its goals from a sustainable source. A sustainable source being Manchester United being able to create its own goals and not relying on the errors made by the referee or the other team. Looking at the first two matches, the first 7 goals that were scored under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's reign at Manchester United, you'll notice that 71.43% of those goals were scored as a result of errors made by the other team. Now, looking at also those 2 matches, the first goals in both matches were created as a result of errors made both by the ref and the player from the opposing team. If you look at the Cardiff match, the ref gave Paul Pogba a soft free kick, apparently having been fouled by Gunnarsson. Rashford scored the ensuing free kick off a deflection. Now if you look at the second match versus Huddersfield, Rashford put in the cross from a corner kick and Kachunga, instead of heading the ball outward, headed the ball towards Matic. Now, why is this a bad sign? It's showing early on that under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's reign at Manchester United were actually not able to create their own chances and were relying on the other teams to create the goals for them. This would now create problems for Manchester United in the future when it came across formidable opponents who actually don't make that many mistakes. If you're not able to create the goals for yourself and the next team is not making mistakes, you usually end up in the situation that we currently are in, where we are losing matches. So the problems for Manchester United started way before the losses started coming in. Manchester United got both its first goals from assistants. Now this is important because the first goal in the match is the most important, as it forces the opposing team manager to actually make some changes. It usually results in a more open game and works out in the favor of the team which scores first. So Manchester United got its first breaks in both its first 2 matches from errors from the opposing team. This does not bode well for the future. In addition to that, you will note that of the first 7 goals that were scored, 3 were scored from set pieces. That's 42.85% of the goals. This further adds on to the fact that Manchester United was failing to create its own chances from open play. Now what happens when you come across a team which does not give away much, or a team which actually has you under pressure such that you're not getting the free kicks? As you can see from the beginning, Manchester United had not set a good foundation for itself. We will analyze as we go on in the series to see whether or not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer managed to solve these problems, and this will actually give us an insight into whether or not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the perfect man for the job. Another aspect that I looked at in the first episode that I'll continue to analyze today is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's ability to actually solve problems that arise in the match. We noticed that in the first match, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer failed to stop the attacks coming down the right, as Ashley Young was beaten about 9 times by Murphy. In this match, this problem also continued. Now, looking at the first part of the problem, in the first half, Dalot started and there were no problems down the right wing. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer then substituted Dalot for Ashley Young for reasons best known to him, and attacks started coming down the right again. So at this point, we know that Ashley Young is a problem down the right defensively, and yet he's gotten an extended contract. We'll actually try to look at that in future episodes as to why such a player is getting more perks when he's actually a defensive liability. So in the second half, after Ashley Young was actually introduced into the match, he got beaten about 3 times. However, looking at the left, Luke Shaw was beaten about 8 times during that match, with Pritchard and Cole managing to get in the crosses that Huddersfield failed to convert. So in this match, instead of only being attacked down the right, he was being attacked down the right and the left, and most importantly down the right as a result of introducing Ashley Young, which is a bad substitution. We'll look at the substitutions later. So in these first 2 matches, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has shown that he's not able to solve problems that arise during the match, with Manchester United being very vulnerable down the wings. So one of the main problems that we can now say Manchester United has is being vulnerable through the wings, and we'll analyze to see whether or not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has managed to solve this problem for Manchester United in the matches that came up after that. If you take a close look, you realize that Manchester United conceded 6 big chances per match in the first 2 matches. That's 12 big chances in the first 2 matches, which is too high considering the level of opposition we're up against. Now, thankfully, Manchester United only saw 2 of these big chances being converted into goals because of the quality of the attackers that they were faced with. In this case, Manchester United conceded the first big chance of the match as Kongolo blazed the ball over the bar from close range. Now, if you look at Kongolo's finishing quality rating, it's about 25%, which has been the story so far. So if Huddersfield had managed to actually convert the first big chance of the match, you'd have seen Manchester United being forced to probably adjust his strategy, and the game might have ended in a different way. So 12 big chances conceded. This is a problem we'll analyze to see if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer manages to actually deal with it in the episodes that come up. Another cause for concern is the distribution of the big chances in terms of their source. 66.67% of the big chances against Manchester United in the first 2 matches came from the center of the pitch. So in addition to Manchester United being opened up via the wings, it was being torn down through the middle. Now the questions will be asked, is Matic doing a good job of actually being the holding midfielder and covering the defense? We'll look at this in future episodes as well. So 66.67% of chances came down the middle, meaning Manchester United is vulnerable from all angles. It also showed that since this phenomenon occurred across both matches, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had not found a solution to this. If I'm actually to ask you, what is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tactic? How does he approach the game? You might actually not be able to figure it out. I'll also touch on this later on. As you know, in the first episode I talked about attack modes, which is me trying to figure out how he does this thing. But if you really try to take a look at it, it doesn't seem like Manchester United has a clear tactical philosophy as you would find maybe with Klopp and with Pep. And again, this is a problem which shows that Manchester United might have made the wrong decision in choosing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Another important aspect of a match, especially for a coach, is being able to deal with the opposition team's key man. The key man determines a lot and actually gives the other team a chance of beating you. Looking at the first 2 matches against Cardiff, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer failed to deal with Murphy as Murphy constantly beat Ashley Young down the wing. In the Huddersfield match, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer again failed to deal with the threat of Pritchard and Departure. Departure, of course, came into prominence in the second half, but Pritchard was a thorn in our necks from the first to the last minute. One of Pritchard's deliveries actually resulting in the only goal that was scored by Huddersfield. So another phenomenon that's showing, a trend that's showing, is that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is failing to deal with key men. In the 2 matches that he had coached Manchester United up to that point, he had failed to deal with both Murphy and Pritchard and also Departure in the second half of the match against Huddersfield. So now looking at the match that Manchester United is faced with against Messi, you would only have to think for a few seconds to know exactly what's going to happen there. Another statistic that has gotten me worried is Manchester United's inability to stop other teams from executing what I call attacking actions against them. In the first episode, we noted that Cardiff managed to execute 28 attacking actions. We are talking about the long throws, the through passes, the crossing, the shots on targets, etc. In the match against Huddersfield, this went up to 31, with the crosses moving from 11 to 14, further solidifying the fact that Manchester United is very vulnerable through the wings. Now, if small teams can attack you like this, 59 attacking actions in 2 matches against small teams, you would want to wonder what would happen against the bigger teams in the later stages of competitions or the league. So Manchester United is very vulnerable in this respect. The most important of these statistics is that of the 6 shots on target that have been hit against Manchester United, 5 of those shots have resulted in big chances being created with 1 goal. Now, if these teams were bigger teams, we would have seen probably 5-6 goals or even more getting in. So of the 6 shots that were hit against Manchester United, 3 in the Cardiff match and 3 in the Huddersfield match, 5 of those attacking chances turned into big chances, showing that as a defensive unit, Manchester United is pretty useless at the moment. This is rubbish, guys, and this has to improve in the summer and next season if Manchester United is to make a mark on the Premier League or any other competition that it participates in. Just to give an indication of how big these chances were, let's just dig a bit deeper into them. In the 9th minute, you see Kongolo receiving a ball in the area barely 2 meters away from the goal line, and he managed to blaze it over. Like we said, we don't blame his finishing quality rating is about 25%. The next notable chance was in the 45th minute when Pritchard gave the ball to Billing, and Billing, instead of squaring to Departure, decided to take a shot himself and he hit the side netting. Now, Billing has got a decision-making rating for about 50%, so we don't really blame him. It also shows the type of opposition Manchester United has been up against, but if any of those two chances had been taken by very good players, Manchester United would have fallen behind and the result would have been very different. In the 48th minute, Kachunga put a through ball to Departure, whose feet failed him and he left the ball, stopping him from getting a chance to have a one-on-one with David De Gea. This was a big chance. 2 minutes later, Mbenza beat Dalot down the wing and he crossed it to Kachunga. And Kachunga, instead of actually steadying himself and looking for the best option to go, placed the shot over by rushing it. Now, also looking at Mbenza, his decision making came into question as he has a decision making rating of about 60%. This caused him to choose to square the ball to Kachunga instead of Departure, who was in a much better position. So as you can see, the theme continued where smaller teams were fluffing the numerous chances that they were getting against Manchester United, and in the end, Manchester United were looking like they played a good game. Huddersfield got another big chance around about the 68th minute from a corner kick, and Departure fluffed the shot. However, he drew a very important and critical save from David De Gea. If Departure had hit this shot a bit more sweetly, you probably have seen a goal coming from this. In the 88th minute, Pritchard, a key man that Manchester United had failed to deal with, delivered a free kick. Mounier got the first touch and Zanka finished off for a goal. That was the last of the big chances that Huddersfield got against Manchester United. So like I said before, 12 big chances in 2 matches against 2 small struggling teams does not bode well for Manchester United, because in the future, bigger teams will convert these chances. Imagine if this was against Cristiano Ronaldo. Okay, reverting to that controversial analysis that I made in the first episode about real goals versus assisted or fluke goals. In this match, the only goal that was created or scored without the assistance of the opposing team was the 78th minute goal by Pogba, a sweet long range shot. In the 28th minute, however, Matic benefited from Kachunga heading the ball towards him and letting him tap it into the net. And in the 64th minute, Pogba's long range shot was deflected into the Huddersfield goal by a Huddersfield defender. This is important, especially when you note the previous match of Manchester United versus West Ham, where we got both our goals off very dubious circumstances. When VAR is now in effect, you see teams like Manchester United who rely on the referee and other circumstances to score goals suffering. So right now, in the analysis, for the sake of the analysis and predicting our future potencies, Manchester United, allow me to say that the score versus Huddersfield was actually 1-1 when you consider that the other two were assisted by the other team. I'm not saying the goals weren't legitimate, but they were assisted, and this will not help us going into the future. We need to know if we can kill as much as is possible in order to get the results as the team. So it was 1-1, and the points tally at this point in time was 4 points out of a possible 6 instead of 6 out of 6. Just humor me and follow and see how many points Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will have at the end of the series of goals that Manchester United actually created for themselves. This will give you a picture of how potent Manchester United is, and it will also help you manage your expectations after the summer. Another aspect that helped Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in his early games at Manchester United were refereeing decisions. Of the 4 contestable refereeing decisions that actually occurred in these 2 matches, 3 went in favor of Manchester United, a 75% support from the refereeing system on controversial decisions. In the Cardiff match, it was 1-1, as in the 5th minute, Pogba actually got lucky with the ref and got a free kick, if you can put it that way, which is converted by Rashford into a goal. In the second match, it was 2-0 for Manchester United, as Dalot fouled Kachunga, stopping him from creating a big chance. Dalot got away with that. And in more amusing fashion, when Manchester United were given a free kick, 5 players were offside in the box, but the referees did not sound the whistle. Now, if this goal had gotten in, this would have been seen as an assisted goal under the system I've been monitoring, as I mentioned earlier on. 5 players were offside, the ref didn't see that, and if the goal had gotten in, and because there's no VAR, it would have stood. adding to the tally of goals Manchester United is getting from being assisted by situations as opposed to themselves. Okay, in the last episode, we also talked about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's attacking modes and noted how the first attacking mode, which was attacking through the wings, didn't work and the goals actually came through the middle, even though the second attacking mode, which is cutting through the middle, was not working properly. Again, in the Huddersfield match, you see the same trend continuing with the first attacking mode through the wings not bearing any fruit. So it's been 2 games and we've failed to actually attack successfully and consistently through the wings. We shall note to see how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer manages or does not manage to deal with this going into future games. Now, the second attacking mode, which was going through the middle, again was not really working, and this is seen in the type of goals that we scored. The first one being an error from Kachunga from a corner kick, the second one being a deflected shot, long range shot from Paul Pogba, and the third one also being a long range shot from Paul Pogba. Now, looking at Pogba in the 90 or so appearances is made for Manchester United in the Premier League, you know he doesn't score so many long range shots. So this again is not a sustainable source of goals for Manchester United, as it will not be able to be replicated to enable us to challenge for silverware and the upper reaches of the Premier League. So this is a major issue. I want you to reflect on it. We've got attacking modes that are not working. Looking at the tactics, they're not working. Going through the wings, it's not working. Going through the middle, it's not working. Lobbing to the front from the defense is not working. He also tried a bit of lobbing to the centre forward from the Messiah position. That's not working as well. What are we going to do as Manchester United with all these tactics not working? You can see in the type of goals that we're scoring that they're not coming from deliberate tactics, but it's just luck as we're scraping along. And when this luck runs out, as it has in the past few matches, with only 2 wins in the last 6, it becomes apparent that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer might not be the man for the Manchester United job, and we've got real problems on our hands. Another area we looked at in the first episode was the corner kick strategy. In this match against Huddersfield, Manchester United hit about 5 and 1 goal came as a result of the error made by Kachunga. So in the 9 or so corner kicks that Manchester United has hit, we haven't really gotten much outside that era. Also looking at the free kicks, it's the same as the corner kicks. 5 players in the box arranged in no particular fashion. I don't see how we're going to benefit from these set pieces like other teams which are good at set pieces have benefited from them. I would like to see how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer deals with this going into the future, but as of now, he hasn't managed to find a solution. Okay, that's it for the statistical analysis of the matches. Now, looking at other potential problems, Manchester United actually is not able to boss a midfield. This is the evidence that I came across in the first 2 matches. If you notice, Matic was starting from behind the center circle instead of in the center circle. For a player to be able to boss the midfield from the center circle, he has to be comfortable with the ball and be able to dribble when under pressure. He also has to be surrounded by players who are equally comfortable on the ball and they can actually pass the ball around. But Manchester United in the Cardiff and Huddersfield matches were actually starting from behind the center circle. Now the disadvantage of this is less potent attacks can be launched from behind the center circle, as you might have to rely on the long ball, etc. But if you're bossing the midfield, you can make quick passes down the middle or down the wings and launch quicker and more consistent attacks. So we're going to see how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is actually going to deal with this phenomenon. But as of now, as of the first 2 matches, it wasn't looking good. Also, another symptom of problems that are related to player quality is the fact that Manchester United could not start the match from the back. We were hitting long balls in the Cardiff match, we were hitting long balls to the center, also in the Huddersfield match. If you actually can start from the back, it means you've got defenders, midfielders and attackers who are comfortable on the ball and who can attack the ball and probably pass the ball around. Manchester United tried that thrice in the Huddersfield match and lost the ball all 3 times. We also tried to start from the back against Cardiff with similar results. So we want to see going into the season whether Manchester United was able to deal with this, and in the summer whether or not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer can purchase players which can start from the back or even boss the midfield as a result of being comfortable on the ball. So in terms of Ole Gunnar's ability and future, these 2 are very important aspects and I'll be keeping a close eye on them. So as you can see, it has become apparent that in the first 2 matches of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tenure at Manchester United, problems had started cropping up and he had failed to solve any of those problems in those first 2 matches. So So what I'm going to go and do for you is analyze the rest of the season and see whether or not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer managed to deal with any of these problems. If you get to the end of the series, which is this season, and we notice that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has not managed to solve any of the problems, it'll give us an indication of the type of coach that we have on our hands. And more importantly, if he goes into the summer and fails to make the necessary moves which address the issues that we have identified, we'll then know that next season as a club will be in for it, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will not be the man for the job. So basically that's the analysis for the first two matches. I hope you liked it. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and help this channel grow so that we can actually build a panel of Manchester United fans who have got an idea of what's really going on in the club, because a lot of the problems that people complain about months from now are problems that would have started before. That's why I've taken this chance to actually go back to his first match and see how he's been doing to date, regardless of the result. And so far the picture is not looking nice. So like I said again, please like, share and subscribe, comment, and let me know what you'd like me to add and subtract. It's the critique, and I'm done with business.